So the cornerstone historically was like the first stone laid in a building. So in, say, like Egyptian times, they would embed in the stone symbolic objects that were meant to bless the space. And then growing up in Jamaica on construction sites, whenever they laid the foundation, there would always be kind of a ceremony on the construction site. And it was meant to both bless the space, but also protect the workers as they were working on the stone. My dad is an architect and urban planner. And so we lived in Kingston, but we would pack up the car every weekend and go to the farm. There's like bananas and oranges and limes and avocados and breadfruit. So I spent a lot of time as a kid like going back and forth from the farm and also on construction sites with my dad and building things on the farm. You know, we're talking about the limestone and the water. Jamaica sitting on this limestone shelf and the water moving through kind of the structure of the island. It's kind of like a white cement. It has some limestone in it already. I wanted the tiles to have this sort of deteriorating quality, and I was experimenting in the studio with coir, which is essentially, it's like the husk of the coconut tree, and they use it in agriculture to aerate the soil. So I'm using inks to pigment the material. Conch shells have this like pink color that's formed from the mollusks that live in the shells. And so over the years I've been thinking about the water moving through the island, through the limestone, but also the water being this part of access and equity for it's not just about the land, but it's about like who owns land, how land ownership changes hands and moves, and the kind of the inequity in those systems that perpetuate colonial structures. In all of our kind of lived experiences, we have these layered meanings to the materials we touch, the sounds we hear, the smells that take us back to places in our life, and how they almost, in a way, change our DNA. I started using rope partly because growing up on an island and boats, my grandfather was a seaman. My grandmother was a seamstress and taught me how to sew. Both of my grandmothers were textiles people. I mean, it's totally a meditative process. I mean, there's so much repetition in it, and like counting things out and making mistakes and then being annoyed at the mistakes. But I do really enjoy doing it. There's like various theories about thinking about like early weavers being the early architects. So essentially positing that like female weavers being the first architects. So all of the weaving that I do is in a way kind of like architectural weaving, I think. And this piece is made from burlap. It's a wide weave called erosion cloth that's used for terracing land and like wrapping the roots of trees. And it's rolled up, but it's about 18 feet tall right now. I'm always thinking about like spaces that make us feel connected to home or give us a sense of safety, or alternately a lack of safety. And right now there's such a feeling of like a lack of safety. In some ways, making things large allows you to feel not small as an individual, but a part of a larger kind of space and community. Churches and synagogues and temples, places of worship, they often use the physical space to give you a sense of something greater than yourself, right? So because this is such an amazing room, it gives you the opportunity to play with the scale of your body in relation to the form. The way the volume affects your body in space is something I'm always really interested in. And then has the bells kind of strung into the side. I wanted to make bells, but I didn't want them to look like traditional bells. They're like, you know, like almost like coral or rock formations, but then the bells are also connected to the place because my parents have all these wind chimes on the farm, and it's very windy where they live on this like, it's like a little bluff of a hill. And so I was recreating that kind of space and time with the bells. I guess it's a cornerstone for me. It's a cornerstone of my practice. And it allowed me to kind of like take the elements that were the cornerstone of my practice and expand outwards from there in terms of like literally physically into space, and then also in terms of like extending the way I've been experimenting with material and integrating different aspects of material. So personally, like making the work that is about Jamaica is really important because it's, despite having lived here for half my life, that place still is very much home. We're all constantly kind of like in this cycle of forming places and being formed by the places that we're existing in.